Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. A little bit of a different setup today. As you can see, we are using StreamYard for the first time. Had loads of technical difficulties before starting this video. Obviously, we are joined by Gort Gregory once again, but I thought, you know what, we'll jump on StreamYard and see what this is chatting for the time being. We're going to be talking about Minnesota United once again today. As I'm sure you know, if you've been a fan of the channel or even just a subscriber or somebody that gets involved with the channel for a long time, we've sat down on a number of occasions and spoke about Minnesota United. They are Gort's hometown team over in the United States. He is also an Evertonian, of course, as you can see by the bits of memorabilia. I think there's a calendar behind him there and the license plate as well. But Minnesota United are Gort's local side, and often we sit down on the channel and talk about them and how they're doing and the results and performances and stuff. And I try and get as involved with the MLS and specifically Minnesota as I possibly can. But anyway, yeah, before we get into this sort of roundup, mate, of Minnesota. If you don't know anything about Minnesota, by the way, and you're new to the channel since we last done a video, Minnesota United are a side in the MLS, of course, over in America, and they are managed by Everton legend Adrian Heath. There he is there in known form as Gord holds him up there. So there is a history between Minnesota and Everton. There's a history there between, obviously, Adrian Heath and Everton. So anyway, before we get into talking about the performances, the results, and obviously some transfers over the last few weeks, because it has been the transfer window, as we all know. We know too well on this channel how effective the transfer window has been for Everton. But before we get into any of that, how's things, mate? How you doing? How's things over in the States?
You know, it's good. Glad, we're back back in stadiums, and
yeah,
it's good. It's good feeling being back, and I know you guys over there are getting back in there as well, and
yeah.
I think it's something that. I mean, it was like just crazy, you're just sitting at home and, you're watching it on TV and you're like, I want to be there. And
yeah, definitely. It's mad. As I said it the other day after the Southampton game, I said it's mad because we hadn't been in Goodison Park for what was 18 months, something like that, 16 months, the best part of over a year. And whilst on one hand it felt so sort of surreal and it felt like, oh my god, we're back at Goodison, on another hand it also felt so normal, because it is normal. That's normality for us as Evertonians, and yourself, Gort, being a Minnesota fan, is getting down there and getting the stadium and watching your side. So even though we've been out of stadiums for so long and with the pandemic and stuff, getting back in there just felt like a normal match day. It didn't feel like it had been gone. It just felt like this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we do every week. So it was a bit surreal. It was a bit mad, but it was amazing to be back. And I'm sure you obviously been to the Allianz a couple of times, which is Minnesota's home ground since the pandemic, and I'm sure it was amazing to be back there. So we finished up the last episode just before Minnesota were due to play FC Dallas, I believe. Had a relatively up and down start to the season, picked up a couple of wins before then, but previous to that had a couple of defeats and a couple of draws, and it was a little bit, I don't want to say there was a bit of questioning out there for Adrian Heath, but there were certainly some Minnesota fans, I think it's fair to say, who weren't necessarily very happy with the start to the season. Since then, obviously, there's been a lot of football played. We had a 1-1 draw to FC Dallas, beat Austin 2-0 in a revenge game, of course. Won away to Portland, which was a good result, 1-0. 2-2 with San Jose. Lost 2-0 to Colorado at home. Away, Colorado with a good side. Beat Seattle Sounders 1-0, which was a massive result. Beat Portland 2-1, of course. Drew with LAFC 2-2. Drew with Vancouver 2-2. Beat Houston Dynamo 2-0. Lost 1-0 to LA Galaxy. Again, obviously one of the sides that'd be more known in the MLS. Drew 1-0 with San Jose. Drew 0-0 with Sporting KC, and then more recently beat Houston Dynamo 2-1 away from home. So some really good results in there, mate, and some really good performances as well. Obviously, we've spoken pretty much every day since the last video about Minnesota and the performances and the results and stuff like that, and obviously new signings. So obviously, again, like I said from the last video, there was sort of this feeling of we haven't really started the season too well, not well enough. We need to improve. What's the feeling now surrounding Minnesota United from, Minnesota fans and obviously, like I said, those last 8-9 fixtures, which haven't particularly been too bad. Not a lot of losses in there.
Yeah, no, we've definitely been picked up, and I think our acquisition, the transfers we brought in, I think we're really really good, and just just on the to go back to the 2-2 draw, Vancouver, that should have been a 2-1 win. That should have been a 2-1 win because there was a penalty decision and stoppage time in the second half. I mean, it was, yeah, you can go back and go on YouTube and you can look at it, and everybody was just like, how is that a penalty? And it's that, and I think the past kind of then the most recent game before the international break, we had we kind of had our what Everton usually have, a bunch of injuries, and so we have a bare bones squad. It's almost like, oh, play the kids, and I think that's something that Adrian Heath, I mean, he'll give. I think he's played Patrick Way a few times. I think he's brought him on. I think he's had 2, and when he came on against the first game at Austin, he looked really really good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And like you said, Adrian Heath, was sort of, I don't want to say forced into playing some of the younger players, but with international breaks and injuries and stuff like that, he didn't really have much of a choice. And as you mentioned there, with Weah coming into the side, and a couple of other younger players as well. Minnesota currently sitting 5th in the MLS at time of recording.
Western Conference, new Western Conference.
Western Conference of the MLS.
Yeah, because now we have, it's
obviously, if you're new to the MLS and the channel and the videos, there's 2 conferences of the league. There's the Eastern and the Western. Obviously, Minnesota fall under the Western Conference. They're currently sitting 5th in the league, 21 games played. So a game in hand ahead of a lot of the other teams. Couple of games in hand ahead of some teams. 8 wins, 7 draws, 6 losses, 31 points, 0 goal difference, 24 goals scored, 24 goals conceded. A very Everton-like season at the moment so far for Minnesota. I think a lot of Evertonians would look at that and go, that seems a bit like Everton. A few wins, few draws, few losses, no goal difference, in and thereabouts. I suppose the question is that a good position for Minnesota to be in at the moment, or do we expect more from the side and more from these players? Obviously, you can finish 4th last season, so the aim is to improve every season, as it is with any footballing team, as it is in any walk of life, is to constantly be improving. Is it fair to say Minnesota fans and yourself maybe expected more at this point, or are Minnesota sort of where we expected them to be at?
I would say probably, I think definitely, before the season started, they, I think the media were just, really, really, hyping us up. And then we just, we had a, really bad start. And ever since then, we've kind of looked like the Minnesota of old. And it's definitely something I think that's, it's happened over the course of Minnesota and MLS, where we were kind of always, they were saying, oh, we're always the underdogs, and we didn't do our first, I think we set our first 2 seasons, we set the league record for the most goals conceded.
Oh, okay. Not a great record to set.
No, it wasn't. And yeah, no, I definitely think, from where we're at right now, I think, we're really good. And I think but there have been some games where I feel like we should have taken all 3 points, because, we create a lot of chances, but we're almost dead last in the league for converting chances.
Yeah, and that's again similar to Everton, I suppose. I'm not going to sit here and keep making the comparison, but chances created, the chances converted is something that we know Everton struggled with over the years, and it's mad, isn't it? Because in football you can play so well and create so many chances and not get anything out of a game and be relegated at the end of the season. Even doing that, we saw Brighton more recently. Okay, Brighton haven't been relegated, but I think last season in the Premier League they created the fourth most chances in the league. They were effectively a goal scorer away from being a Champions League side, but because they didn't have that, they finished nowhere near European football in any sense of the imagination, and are still seen as a side that won't ever challenge for European football. So it's crazy. And then in the same way, on the other hand, you can have no chances in a game and play absolutely dreadfully, but win a game with a mad decision like we were talking about before with the penalty. I've seen that penalty, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go over on YouTube, watch the highlights. We talk about VAR and refereeing in this country. Bloody hell, that's a shocking decision. That it's an absolutely dreadful decision. I remember you sending me and asking me if I think it was a penalty, and me looking and just thinking, in what sport is that a penalty? That's a shocking decision. But you mentioned there, it's that. It's being able to convert those chances into goals scored, and obviously we saw there a 0 goal difference, which is showing us that we're conceding too many. Yes, okay. Again, goals scored isn't too much of an issue this season, but goals conceded is certainly an issue, and that's why there's been so many draws in recent weeks and stuff like that. Obviously, we spoke last time in the last episode about the players coming in and the players settling in, and the start of the season, obviously, and it being difficult for some players to settle into the league, and obviously the side at the start of the season. Out of those new signings, would you say it's fair to say they've settled in now? Are they doing well? Is there some of them that you maybe think are doing better than you would have thought originally? Is there some that you would have expected more? I know obviously Ramon Abia has gone back, obviously, hasn't he, to Argentina. We talked about him in the last episode. So about those new signings, just do you think that they've settled in?
I think Adrian Unu, I think he's kind of slowly settled in, because he kind of, when he first started out, he had two goals, and then he went on a scoring drought. But one good thing is, the chances he was getting were really, really good. He was getting really good chances, and I think we haven't really seen our strongest team, our strongest 11, as far as attacking wise, because Fragapane's been out since July, who was our quote unquote Kevin Molino replacement, who with being Minnesota, and kind of Molino was kind of our star, and we kind of knew he's kind of early 30s. He was very injury prone. Recently he signed with Columbus, and they recently announced that he tore his ACL for the third time. So he's done an ACL at every single MLS club that he's been at. He did one with Orlando. He did one, I believe he did his right with Orlando. He did his left with Minnesota. And then in training, he did his right again with Columbus. I feel like we're just, getting, and I think Fragapane I thought he's a really good, I feel like he's a really good replacement. And then you kind of you have this kind of a sharp player, Emmanuel Reynoso, who I think he's the leader in nutmegs this season.
Very nice.
And
very good.
Yeah, but he is kind of you really gotta tackle him to take him down. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes he does a little bit of play acting to get fouls, and
as every professional footballer does in this day and age.
Yeah, it's that, and I feel like really good, and then I've then with and then we brought in we signed a homegrown from who came up kind of through the New York Red Bulls,
Yeah.
Aziel Jackson, who's now out on loan to North Carolina FC in League One.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you have that. We brought in Fernando Adi as a free agent since we pretty much waived Ramon Abila because I think kind of feel like he treated like this more as a vacation more than kind of
Yeah.
yeah, because being in, so he's now because it's weird like MLS because you don't sign with like MLS is basically a single entity. So like basically pretty much like all the clubs in a sense are owned by MLS, and you have the
Yeah.
investors that invest in MLS and then they're allowed to.
Yeah.
And so he is on loan to DC. He basically like uh picked up the rest of his loan. DC United did. And so we had to bring in a new kind of striker target man, and that's when we brought in Fernando Adi, who was a free agent. He's played with like he was really good with the Timbers. He's played with the Crew. He played fortunately with FC Cincinnati, and then we like kind of it was announced after, but it was completed. We brought in I believe is he a 20 year old we brought in a 20-year-old Honduran international who
Yeah.
they were really impressed with him when they did when in March when they were doing Olympic qualifying, and they was part of the Honduran team that helped them qualify for Olympics. But I think unfortunately he didn't make the Olympics.
Okay.
But it's a 18-month loan with with an option to buy, and so I haven't really seen much of him yet. So um, that's definitely something that I'm really looking forward to. And then also, kind of not on like as far as like the playing side. It was our CEO announced that Chris Wright at the end of this season that he is stepping down,
Yeah.
and they announced Sherry Ballard, who worked she was like worked at Best Buy, and so starting next season she'll be our new CEO. And that's we're all
Exciting.
thankful as far as where Chris Wright brought us, and his dream of kind of playing at Allianz Field, which I would go, if I was, down 18 months, I would just be like, because for me to go down to a game, I have to drive almost 3.5, 4 hours. Whereas, like I remember like, when I went to, Gooderson, it was like, we were like a 5 minute walk, and it
Yeah.
was like insane. And, I'm like, oh yeah, I think it was like three. I'm like, and so going by and seeing it, and I'm really proud of the work that Chris Wright has done, and I'm excited to see where a new CEO brings us up to. So
Absolutely, and it's worth noting that that experience of working at Best Buy is something that will certainly rub off on Minnesota, isn't it? I mean, Best Buy, one of the biggest companies in the world, certainly one of the biggest companies in America. So to have that experience, to have that business experience as well. I know obviously Best Buy isn't a footballing entity and isn't in sport, but it's a massive company, and to deal with a company of that size on that type of scale and to do it well for as many years as that'll definitely rub off on Minnesota, won't it?
yeah, I will. It's definitely, it's something I'm looking forward to for the future, and I'm excited to see how just how we do, and so as far as like our departures. In July, Patrick Weah went over and trained with Real Betis in Spain for, I believe, like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was real because I'm very hopeful on Patrick Way, and definitely hope he comes up through. We loaned out Navi Kibanguchi to Sacramento Republic. I remember saying this, I think, in one of the last videos, but won't say it again. He was played for the San Francisco Glens, which is the kind of like basically like a club that's kind of like compared to like maybe League Two, who is managed by you could say YouTube legend, U.S. men's national team legend, MLS legend, and a guy on Twitch, Jimmy Conrad.
Yeah.
And he
Very,
definitely,
very nice fella, by the way.
yeah, and so he's like, I see, and he was very, very high on Nabi, and then another loan was we loaned out Callum Montgomery to San Diego Loyal. That's the club in the USL Championship, the second tier. That's the one that's Landon Donovan, former.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
Everton
that
player.
he owns, and is also the manager, and is playing alongside Miguel Ibarra, or as we like to Minnesota like to call him, Batman.
Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's because he has he had a really good friendship with Christian Ramirez, who was like, I mean, he'll always be, he was a real goal scorer, and I feel like, if we would have, I know there were times, and Minnesota Twitter is, recently they're like, oh, we kind of wish that we would have, maybe tapped Christian Ramirez, because, Christian Ramirez is just, he's a great, great goal scorer. Because when we were down in the, NASL, he was really good. And so those two were kind of, called him, quote unquote, Batman and Superman.
Oh, Superman. Okay.
Yeah, so Christian Ramirez is Superman, and so he's playing, and then of course it was kind of announced after that, basically pretty much that we waived. I don't think we really waived. I think basically we traded. We traded Ramon Abila to DC United for the rest of his loan, because I think he's the highest paid. Basically, if you look at the whole squad, he's basically the highest paid player this season at Minnesota. At like, I think he's making just a little over. I mean, you want to think about this. This will just put into perspective as far as European. I think he's like 1.1 million.
A
Is
year.
like a year, yeah. Like
Oh,
some like some of like was I think Jimmy Conrad said, he said when he first started MLS, like his first season, he made like 20,000 his first season.
Mad, isn't it? It's
And
mad.
yeah, and
It is. It puts it into perspective how much money footballers actually have. I just a brief little story before we move on. I went down to Finch Farm on deadline day just to do a bit of filming with Toffee TV, and a couple of Everton players, I won't name them, but a couple of Everton players drove out of the training facility and matching Lamborghini Uruses. There was three of them, and you sort of look and you think, this is how much money these footballers make. This is how much money these players are making at such a young age, and it puts it into perspective when you look at another country like like America. Obviously, MLS has gotten a lot bigger in recent years, but it hasn't always been like that, has it, mate?
no, 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 it hasn't. And you talk about kind of David Beckham and him coming, like I said, him basically, he was the one that the designated player rule, the basically the David Beckham
Yeah,
rule, and kind of now he has his own. Now he has Inter Miami, and
yeah,
owned managed one of his friends is Phil Neville, and he has his reserve side, who, funny enough, I think Harvey Neville, who's Phil Neville's son, is signed. And then I don't know if
okay,
it's been made official, but like it's all on. But Romeo Beckham, one of the sons
yeah,
of David Beckham, is now playing for. I sent you that. So there's that. Another kind of well, we sent Foster Langsdorff off to loan to Tampa Bay in the USL Championship, and
yeah,
basically, I think we picked him up because his previous club, who was in Reno, was the Reno. They went under and didn't no longer exist. So we picked up, I think, three of their players, and by I think he was like the last one. And so like when they were going under, I think he was planning on just like retiring from football. And then I think we signed him, and so he went back. And so he retired from the game on July 27th. He came, I think he maybe made that I can remember, maybe only made one appearance, and that was the 1-0 game one nil loss to Austin, which
yeah.
was the game that I went to, and he looked really, really good. And then this one, this next one, it I felt like it was something that was coming, and it really hit a lot of Minnesota support. They're like, oh, how is he doing? Is he gonna be able? But we bought out the remainder of Ike Opara's contract, which was basically due to which was basically expiring at the end of this season. So pretty much what that meant is uh, we basically paid paid him the rest of his contract. So basically, we could take him off our MLS roster.
Yeah.
So maybe we could so we could still add we could add another, or I don't know, because you can only do it if it's before the season starts. If you do a contract buyout, it doesn't have any effect on the salary cap. But if you do it mid-season, that the money that they make is still goes towards this salary cap. So that one was really, really, that was
Confusing, that one.
yeah, that was because we traded almost like $1 million for, basically traded Kansas City, kind of or quote unquote rival, for probably the best. And then he came in, and that's when we locked in our defense, because that's when we brought in Vito Manone on loan from Reading, and Iko Para ended up winning Defender of the Year. Vito Manone ended up winning Goalkeeper of the Year. That was our
player in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Arsenal. Don't forget. So, and that was our first season at Allianz Field, and I'm just, like I said, I'm thankful for what for what Iko Para did for Minnesota, and the best of luck to him. So to him in his future, and if he can get back onto the field and play, that's definitely something that I'm really looking forward to seeing if he comes back and
Absolutely,
plays.
Mate. Absolutely. Like you said, again, a lot of incomings, a lot of outgoings, a lot of business done this season for this summer so far for Minnesota. And there was a lot of movement in terms of MLS players moving over to Europe as well, wasn't there, mate? And a lot of players actually getting their chance and getting their time to go and shine in some of Europe's, most watched leagues, and obviously, in European football. So we want to have a go through them. I know obviously you've sent me the list. You've got the likes of Christian Ramirez, who you mentioned before, going to Aberdeen. Kaden Clark, who's a big player, massive future, massive potential, really good signing. He was obviously going to RB Leipzig. Sam Vines is going to Antwerp as well. So we go through a few of them, and it seems now more often than not that a lot of players are moving over from the MLS to get their break in Europe, don't they?
Yeah, it's definitely. I think there was apparently. I think Benfica offered, I believe, to sign Colorado's Cole Bassett on like deadline day or something, and it was like I think it was a club record move, or a club record for Colorado, and I think he ended up staying. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in in January, I think there might be quite a few, even more. You have Christian Ramirez, who is off to Aberdeen in Scotland, which we were kind of, because we were all kind of sad because he was at LA, and then he was at Houston, and we really we wanted him to come back, and just the fact for him to play in front of at Allianz Field, he never got the chance to. So I'm hoping either I mean, wish him all the best of luck in Europe, but if he comes back to MLS, or once he retires, I think me, along with a lot of other Minnesota fans, would just love kind of one last good testimonial kind of match for him to play at that. And then you have and like you said, you have Kaden Clark, who, like I said,
by the way, some player.
He is, and the funny thing is, like I said, he was born in Minnesota and came up through I think it was before Minnesota Thunder Academy, and then went down to and played in the kind of the Barcelona down in, I think there's a team, a youth team down in Arizona, and then he played for the New York, the reserve side for the New York Red Bulls, and then they wanted to sign him for the new, but it was kind of, I don't really know my opinion on it, but basically pretty much the New York Red Bulls had to trade, I think 50, had to basically trade, send something, I forget off the top of my head, to Minnesota for the rights to sign into an MLS contract, and so he basically was bought, and then he's he's still on loan to he'll finish out this MLS season, and then he'll go to RB Leipzig in January. And I kind of find that ironic because like less than a year later, here's Minnesota trading to New York to basically to get homegrown priority to Azeel Jackson. You have Sam Vines to Royal Antwerp. I think he's a really promising left back. He's really good. You have Tejan Buchanan to Club Bruges.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Coming over from New England Revolution, who arguably are probably one of the best teams in MLS this season. So yeah, he'll finish out this MLS season, and then he'll go over in January. You have Tanner Tessman to Venezia in Italy from he's another FC Dallas came up through the FC Dallas, who they have a really good academy. Then you also have Gianluca Busio from Sporting Kansas City. He's going to Venezia, so it's almost kind of like Venezia is almost becoming like the the club that Americans are going to cheer for in Italy. And then you also have Jack DeVry. I think he's Philadelphia Union. He's going there on loan, and I think he's joining their reserve side. So that's a really good. And then you have Diego Rossi from who's at LAFC. He's off to Fenerbahce, I believe, on a loan with an option to buy.
Okay.
Really interesting. And then you have Chris Mueller from Orlando, who they announced that he is leaving he has signed a pre-time, or Orlando basically announced that he wasn't signing a new contract. And then it was later revealed that Hibernian in Scotland have signed him on a free, and he looks to be some player. Another one that I could possibly see, moving would be kind of, I don't know if they would move him on yet, but Ricardo Pepe from FC Dallas he's another one that's really, I think, kind of high, and he's been scoring a lot of goals, and so it's definitely something, it's definitely, the season of, MLS, young talent going over to Europe. And
definitely, and there's a lot of young talent in the MLS, as you've said, to watch that that are in Europe and also in the MLS as well. Like you said, it's a league that has vastly improved over the years. You got a lot better in regards to quality, competition side. The games, are really interesting and entertaining. Now we see week there's a goal scored by somebody somewhere that's just absolutely excellent. The quality of player, not only that the MLS has got there, but the United States in themselves are producing. We know Gio Reyna, of course, of Dortmund, Kaden Clark, you just mentioned there. So definitely a league to be watching. And if you're going to watch the MLS and you're new to the MLS, then why not support Minnesota? Get behind Minnesota, get behind the fellas. And the ladies, of course, and yeah, get behind the club. Well, mate, look, we're going to finish it up there then for this episode. Obviously, we'll be back in a few weeks to do another episode anyway, so we'll be covering all of the games and as and when, and we'll have Gortz on left, right, and centre. Gortz has also got his own Minnesota United channel. Do you want to plug that, mate, before we finish up?
It's called the Majestic Loon. It's kind of rip off a little bit of what Cam does, and do kind of basically pretty much just do match previews and instant match reactions, and then just kind of then we had a MLS fantasy league going on. So the current leader in the fantasy league is Fellas FC with 1,213 points, with myself in second with 1,162, and Cam is coming in ninth with a total of 871 points.
Need to improve that. Need to get back on it and start changing my team and make some transfers. But I'll leave the link to Gorge's channel in the description. I'll leave the link to the fantasy league as well. It's probably a bit late to join, but if you want to join anyway, then get involved in that as well. Well, anyway, mate, look, thank you very, very much. Really, really do appreciate you coming on and joining us. Anything to say before we finish up?
I don't know. Probably just take a bite of what me and my friend when he was over. It's called a Heath Bar, and I know I told Cam about this.
Yeah,
it's an English toffee bar, which I think is very ironic. Hence why we call it the Inchy Bar, because Adrian Heath, he's English, he's a toffee legend. So I figure I'll
have a bite. Why not? Why not? And when I come over, I'll have to get a couple of them to try, because I do love my chocolate. Anyway, look, big thank you for watching, everybody. Massive thanks to Gorge for coming on. Like I said, don't forget to check out the Majestic Loon down below. Drop a subscribe to that and check out Gorge's Twitter as well. We'll be back with another Minnesota video very, very shortly, and an Everton video as well, so look out for those. Big thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.